Okay, hi all. So we are going to look into a new chapter, chapter 5, which is motion. Okay, today I'll be covering worksheet 1. Okay, this worksheet I've actually given to you all probably a week ago. Okay, so we'll resume with this chapter. Now, for motion, we will be looking at a few types of engine system. Okay, so for motion, the first thing we'll be looking at is four stroke petrol engine. Okay, and then we will look at four stroke diesel engine, and we will look at two stroke petrol engine. Okay, this will be our first section for the topic. Alright, first of all, let's look at a four stroke petrol engine. Okay, the characteristics. Right, for four stroke petrol engine, first thing, it uses petrol. Okay, and you can actually see this engine mostly in vehicles, cars. Okay, smaller vehicles. Okay, diesel engine on the other hand will be used in larger vehicles. So later we will look at the difference and why these vehicles are using petrol or diesel engine respectively. So for four stroke petrol engine, okay, it is made up of four strokes. Okay, that means that the piston in each cylinder will make four up and down movements. Okay, there's four strokes involved in this engine. Okay, so we are going to look at individually each stroke, what it means and what happens during the stroke. You have to memorize each stroke. Okay, the first stroke which we will look at is inlet stroke, or sometimes they call it as induction stroke. Okay, so from the word itself, if you see inlet here, okay, so during inlet stroke, what I want you to remember is the valve. First of all, okay, the valve in inlet stroke, inlet valve is open. Okay, so easy to remember, inlet stroke, the inlet valve is open and the exhaust valve will be closed. Okay, so for this stroke, first thing is the valve. So two valves we have. Okay, two valves, inlet and exhaust. Okay, so the inlet valve is open in this stroke and the exhaust valve is closed. Okay, all right, the movement of piston, you got to remember for this stroke, the movement of piston is downwards. Okay, it's fixed. For inlet stroke is downwards. Okay, the next thing is what happens. Okay, the mixture of petrol and air enters the cylinder through the inlet valve. Okay, so this is a mixture of petrol and also air. Two things is mixing and it enters through the inlet valve. So the diagram looks something like this. Okay, this is an inlet stroke. Now you can see here, okay, this is actually what we call as a spark plug. Okay, this part here is called a spark plug, and we have the exhaust valve over here and the inlet valve over here. Okay, so the inlet valve in this diagram is open, therefore the petrol and air mixture can actually enter. Okay, the inlet valve is open. Alright, so this is the piston. Okay, this will be the piston down here, and the movement of the piston is downwards. Okay, is downwards. Alright, so please remember the characteristic for inlet stroke. Next, I move on. Okay, the second stroke is called compression stroke. Okay, compression stroke. Okay, so you have to remember this is all what is happening when an engine is on. Let's say a car engine. Okay, car engine is four stroke petrol engine. So this is what is happening. First we talked about inlet, second we talk about compression stroke. Okay, now the movement of piston, if the inlet stroke just now was downwards, the movement of piston here is upwards. Okay, so easy to remember, down, up, and then down again, up again. Okay, that's the 4 strokes. So for the valve, okay, for the valve, okay, valve is very important. Okay, in this case, because it's compression, we don't want any air to go in or go out. We don't want any petrol to enter or exit. What we want is whatever mixture of petrol and air in the piston, we want it to be compressed. So we have to keep both valves closed. Okay, so there's 2 valves, remember, inlet valve and also exhaust valve. Okay, both is closed in this case. Okay, what happens? The mixture of petrol and air, just now petrol and air mixture is compressed in this stroke. So this is called a compression stroke. So you see there is actually 3 things you got to remember for each stroke. First thing is movement of piston. So the first stroke, the movement of piston was downwards, inlet stroke downwards, and for this one is upwards. Okay, it's always keep changing, down, up, and then down again, up again. Okay, second thing is the valve you need to look at. So here inlet valve open, exhaust valve is closed. Okay, whereas for compression we need to compress, so we cannot have any valve open. We have to get both valve, inlet and also exhaust valve closed, then only it can be compressed inside. So this is your second stroke. Now the third stroke in the same engine, okay, this is the same engine here. Okay, the third stroke, okay, look at your paper, alright, the paper which I gave you, same page. Ignition, or we call as power stroke. Okay, this is called ignition or power stroke. Okay, some books just write ignition stroke, some books write power stroke. Okay, movement of piston, you can guess because first was down, then was up. Now this one is going to be movement of piston downwards. Okay, now as usual, the second thing we have to look at is the valve. Okay, the valve, both in this case, this power stroke, again both will be closed. So the inlet valve and the exhaust both is closed. Okay, so remember, for the second stroke, which is compression stroke, and the third one, which is ignition or power stroke, the valves are all closed. Okay, so far only the first one, the inlet valve was open. Okay, now what happens in this power or ignition stroke? Mixture of air and petrol is burned by the spark produced by the spark plug. The expanding gases pushes the piston downwards. So we know in the first stroke, the air and petrol enters through the inlet valve. Second stroke, which is compression, we know the air and petrol is compressed. Now the third one here is the mixture of air and petrol is actually burnt. Okay, how it is burnt? Because this type of engine, 4-stroke petrol engine, has a spark plug. Okay, your car, motorbike, it has a spark plug. So the expanding gases push the piston downwards. Okay, so these are important characteristic. Power stroke is where the spark plug ignites. Okay, so here important thing, the spark plug ignite. Okay, and the piston moves downwards. Okay, so it's you can see here both valves are actually closed. Spark plug is igniting. Spark plug is here in the middle. Okay, between the 2 valves, and the movement of piston is downwards. Okay, here movement of piston again is downwards. Okay, finally the 4th stroke is called the exhaust stroke. Okay, so the exhaust stroke, the movement of piston is upwards. Okay, so upwards, and the valves. Okay, let's look at the valves. Now the valves here, okay, we have inlet as usual, inlet and exhaust. Okay, for exhaust stroke, exhaust will be open, inlet will be closed. Right, inlet will be closed. Right, so remember that. Now the effect is carbon monoxide produced in the burning of the fuel is pushed out through the exhaust valve. Okay, not only carbon monoxide, all the gases which is produced when the petrol air mixture is burned is actually pushed out through the exhaust valve. Okay, through here. So this is where the gases are emitted. All right. So that's what you got to remember for this 4-stroke petrol engine. Okay, so quick recap. Okay, so there is 4 strokes basically. So the first one, remember, is what we call as the inlet stroke. Okay, first one is called the inlet stroke. Second one is called the compression. Okay, third one is called the ignition or power. And the fourth one is called the exhaust. Okay, for the first one, sometimes they also call it as induction. Okay, induction stroke. So these are the 4 strokes for 4-stroke petrol engine. Okay, so again I repeat one more time what you got to remember. Inlet stroke, okay, the movement of piston downwards, compression up, ignition down, exhaust up. Okay, then the second thing you got to remember is the valve. Okay, I'm going to use short form. We have 2 valve, inlet valve and also exhaust valve. So inlet and exhaust, inlet, exhaust, inlet valve, exhaust valve. Okay, so here for the first one, inlet open, exhaust close. This one all close, close, close. Last one, inlet close, exhaust open. Easy to remember. Okay, and what happens during this stroke? Okay, during the inlet or induction stroke, the air and petrol plus air enters. Okay, here compressed. The air and petrol is compressed basically. Okay, here it is actually ignited or burns. Okay, and exhaust, the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide gas is released. Okay, so this is all for the first part, which is 4-stroke petrol engine.